Some places are so sacred, secretive, or protected that entry is strictly forbidden. Then there are those that are locked away for reasons no one wants to talk about. Maybe it's the crumbling ruins of a lost civilization, a place drenched in ancient curses, or a former prison where the walls still hold secrets. Whatever the reason, these ruins aren't just off-limits. They practically dare you to wonder why. These are 15 mysterious ancient ruins that you can't visit in your life. Let's start off with number 15, the Dead Cities, Syria. The name says it all. If ancient ruins could win an award for being the most overlooked, Syria's dead cities would be a top pick. These villages thrived between the 1st and 7th centuries, filled with homes, churches, and streets that should have made them legendary. Instead, they faded into obscurity, abandoned, and left to the elements. Well, you'd think places like this would attract explorers eager to walk through history, but thanks to the ongoing conflict in Syria, these villages remain eerily untouched. Archaeologists still study them, but casual visits are not going to happen. Even in a world obsessed with lost civilizations, the dead cities remain largely ignored, slowly crumbling into dust. If ruins could sigh in disappointment, these ones would. They're the kind of places that should be swarmed with historians and travelers, but instead, they're just sitting there, quietly reminding us that history moves on, even when the buildings don't. Number 14, Jebel Barkal, Sudan. Jebel Barkal is the kind of place that should be multiverse famous, and we mean that, like really. Once the religious heart of the Napatan Kingdom, this ancient site boasts pyramids, temples, and royal tombs that rival anything in Egypt. But instead of drawing massive crowds, it remains tucked away, largely ignored. Part of that is due to its remote location, but politics also plays a role. Sudan's instability has made access difficult, and many areas are fully off-limits. And the thing that raises your hair is that archaeologists believe there's still much more to uncover beneath the sand. Every now and then, new discoveries hint at a hidden past waiting to be revealed. But for now, Jebel Barkal remains one of Africa's most overlooked wonders. If lost civilizations had a most underappreciated category, this site would win every time. What do you say? Number 13, Pompeii, Italy. Who is not familiar with this creepy place? Pompeii is the closest thing we have to a real-life freeze frame of history, except this one comes with a lot of volcanic ash and absolutely no happy endings. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 CE, it buried the entire city so fast that everything, from streets to citizens, was preserved in eerie detail. It's one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world, but don't assume you can explore every corner. Many areas are off-limits, either because they're too fragile or because archaeologists are still uncovering new layers of the city. And yes, people are still finding things under the ash, because when an entire city gets buried, there's bound to be more waiting beneath the surface. For now, Pompeii remains a haunting reminder of how unpredictable history can be. One minute, it's a thriving metropolis, just fun. The next, it's a cautionary tale about living too close to an active volcano. Number 12, the Gantija Temples, Malta. If you think ancient history starts with Egypt, Malta would like a word. And if you don't believe it, just Google it. He will also say this. The Gantija Temples, built around 3600 BCE, are among the oldest religious sites in the world, older than the pyramids and Stonehenge. But while parts of them are open to the public, others are completely off-limits. Why? Well, they weren't exactly built to last 6 millennia, and despite preservation efforts, erosion has taken its toll. Some chambers are so delicate that even a light breeze seems risky, so authorities have locked down certain areas to prevent further damage. Adding to the mystery, archaeologists believe there may still be undiscovered sections hidden underground. Who built them? How did they move those massive stones? And what else is buried beneath the surface? For now, we're left with more questions than answers, and a set of ruins that demand respect simply for still existing. Number 11. Teotihuacan, Mexico. If ancient civilizations had a habit of pulling a disappearing act, Teotihuacan would be the Houdini of them all. At its peak, it was one of the largest cities in the Americas, home to at least 100,000 people and some of the most impressive pyramids ever built, just like today's New York or London. Then suddenly, poof. By the 7th century, it was abandoned, and no one really knows why. Today, tourists can visit and marvel at its scale, but don't expect to get full access. Many of its underground tunnels and chambers remain off-limits, sealed away to protect whatever's still buried down there. Archaeologists are still piecing together its secrets, and every new discovery raises even more questions. Some places just refuse to give up their mysteries, and Teotihuacan seems determined to keep its secrets buried for a few more centuries. So, for now, no genius on this earth knows what, why, how, and when behind these mysterious ruins. Number 10. Crac des Chevaliers, Syria. Crac des Chevaliers is considered the toughest fortress of its time, and the dudes who built it were pretty sure. This 12th century medieval stronghold was practically impenetrable during the Crusades, standing tall through countless battles. But while it held off armies for centuries, modern warfare proved to be a different beast. During the Syrian civil war, parts of it were damaged by shelling, and large sections remain restricted due to ongoing restoration efforts. While tourists can visit some areas, the real heart of the fortress, its deepest tunnels and hidden chambers, remains sealed off. Even in a country filled with ancient wonders, Crac des Chevaliers stands out. It's a fortress that survived the past, but struggles against the present, proving that even the strongest walls aren't immune to the destruction from the human mess. Number 9. Palmyra, Syria. History has a bad habit of repeating itself, and Palmyra is proof. For centuries, it was a trade hub, filled with temples, columns, and a rich cultural mix that made it a Roman Empire favorite. But today, it's not exactly the kind of place you'd book a vacation to. Years of conflict have left it battered, and extremist groups did a number on its ruins, deliberately erasing priceless history. Even the parts that survived are surrounded by landmines, military zones, and enough political chaos to make any tour guide sweat. Technically, archaeologists are still trying to save what's left, but with ongoing battles and restricted access, most of Palmyra remains trapped in limbo. Once a shining jewel of ancient civilization, now it's just another casualty of modern warfare. If history had a most tragic downfall award, Palmyra would be up there with Atlantis, except this one was no myth. Number 8. Gyros Island, Greece. Ever wondered what happens to islands that don't make it onto glossy travel brochures? Well, not so welcome to Gyros, a place so haunted by its past that even Greece prefers to keep it under wraps. It wasn't always abandoned, though. For centuries, it served as a dumping ground for political prisoners, a place where people were sent to disappear like Hob Notch. By the 20th century, it had gained such a dark reputation that it was practically synonymous with suffering. As of now, these eerie ruins still stand, but good luck trying to visit. The Greek government has locked it down, partly to protect the fragile remains, and partly because the island doubles as an environmental conservation zone. Whether they're guarding its history or just don't want people snooping around, one thing's clear: Gyros isn't open for sightseeing. There are no beach resorts, no tavernas, just a whole lot of history that Greece has decided is better left untouched. Number 7. Minaret of Jam, Afghanistan. Some monuments are hard to get to. Then there's this Jam, a 12th century masterpiece that might as well be on another planet. Rising 213 feet in a remote Afghan valley, this tower is covered in intricate Kufic calligraphy and geometric designs, a marvel of Islamic architecture. But don't bother packing your bags. Visiting is almost impossible. The region is a logistical nightmare, surrounded by harsh terrain, unpredictable flooding, and, oh yeah, a war zone. UNESCO and the Afghan government have tried to protect it, but since the Taliban took control in 2021, access has been cut off. Even if you somehow made it there, you'd face armed groups, political instability, and the very real risk of never making it back out. The Minaret of Jam is one of the world's most incredible ancient wonders, but unless you're Indiana Jones, you'll only see it in pictures. Number 6. Chichen Itza Pyramid, Mexico. For decades, climbing the Kukulkan Pyramid at Chichen Itza was a bucket list experience. Tourists would haul themselves up 91 stone steps, rewarded with a panoramic view of the Yucatan jungle. Then, in 2006, everything changed. A visitor lost her footing on the steep descent and tragically fell to her death. Authorities immediately shut down access, not just for safety, but because the constant foot traffic was eroding the ancient stonework. Now, the only thing allowed to climb the pyramid is the sun, which creates the famous serpent shadow effect during the equinox. Sure, you can still visit Chichen Itza and marvel at its grandeur from the ground, but the days of standing atop its sacred peak are long gone. It's a small price to pay to keep a 1,000-year-old pyramid standing, even if it means sacrificing that perfect Instagram shot. Number 5. Pluto's Gate, Turkey. Most ancient sites come with myths. Pluto's Gate comes with a body count. Located in Hierapolis, Turkey, this unassuming cave was considered a literal portal to the underworld. Ancient Romans believed it was sacred to Pluto, god of death, because any animal that wandered inside dropped dead on the spot. For centuries, this sounded like just another creepy legend. But modern science proved the Romans weren't wrong. The cave pumps out toxic levels of carbon dioxide, creating an invisible death trap. The gas is heavier than air, forming a lethal pool at night and in the early morning. Back then, priests of Pluto would demonstrate their divine protection by leading animals inside, while secretly standing just high enough to avoid the deadly fumes. Today you can visit the site, but stepping too close to the entrance is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. The Romans weren't kidding. Pluto's still on duty. Number 4. Leptis Magna, Libya. Leptis Magna wasn't just another Roman outpost. It was one of the empire's most spectacular cities. Overlooking the Mediterranean, it boasted grand amphitheaters, towering arches, and an intricate marketplace. Emperor Septimius Severus, born there, expanded it into a thriving metropolis. Then, time and shifting sands did what invaders couldn't. They buried it. When archaeologists uncovered the ruins, they found some of the best preserved Roman structures in existence. But today, stepping foot here is a pretty serious risk. Libya has been in turmoil for over a decade, making travel dangerous. Governments strongly warn against visiting, and even historians struggle to gain access. The ruins remain untouched, their streets eerily silent. Once a place of Roman power and prosperity, Leptis Magna now stands as a city trapped between history and war, waiting for the day when the world can rediscover it safely. Number 3. The Lost Library of Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just a library. It was a powerhouse of knowledge. It housed scrolls on science, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy, drawing scholars from around the world. Then it disappeared. Some blame Julius Caesar's fire, others say it was destroyed in waves, and some believe fragments of it still exist beneath modern Alexandria. Excavating it, however, is a logistical nightmare. The city has been continuously built over for centuries, meaning digging deep enough would literally disrupt people's homes. If even a fraction of its lost wisdom were recovered, we might uncover ancient technology or forgotten civilizations. But for now, the greatest collection of human knowledge remains exactly what history turned it into: a mystery. Number 2. Timbuktu, Mali. Once upon a time, Timbuktu was the center of the world, a hub of trade, culture, and Islamic scholarship. It was home to legendary libraries filled with manuscripts on astronomy, philosophy, and medicine dating back to the 14th century. But today it's a no-go zone. Decades of political instability and terrorism have turned this once thriving city into one of the most dangerous spots on Earth. In 2012, Islamic extremists stormed Timbuktu, destroying sacred tombs and priceless historical sites. French and Malian forces took it back, but the threat still lingers. Tourists are strongly advised to stay far away, and only UN personnel and select researchers are granted access. Timbuktu went from a symbol of knowledge and power to a place trapped in conflict, its treasures hidden behind war and uncertainty. You can read about its history, but visiting? That's off the table. Number 1. The hidden chambers of the Great Pyramid. For a monument that's been studied for centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza still holds some serious secrets. Deep inside, sealed-off chambers and narrow, unexplored shafts hint at mysteries we may never fully understand. The biggest enigma? The passageways leading from the Queen's Chamber, which were first explored in the 1990s using a small robot. It crawled through the shaft for meters before hitting a stone door with mysterious copper handles. What's behind it? No one knows. A hidden tomb? Lost texts? Something ancient Egyptians didn't want us to find? In 2011, another probe revealed a tiny, undecorated space. But beyond that, the mystery remains locked away. The pyramid might be open to visitors, but these chambers? Strictly off limits. Whatever lies beyond those sealed doors, it stayed hidden for over 4,500 years. And Egypt seems in no rush to let the world in on the secret. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.